solutions for the islands and the nation. Too much food coming overseas. One disruption bring the country to knees. One storm, one war, one delay. Supermarket shelves empty same day. So we have to plant more yam and dasheen. Fresh vegetables keep the people clean. Raise more goat, more chicken too. Local farming must come true. Every backyard can grow something. Pepper, thyme and pumpkin. Teach the youth we love the soil. Agriculture reward the tile. Hey, if the import stop tomorrow, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. If the import stop tomorrow, hey, who gon' feed we through the sorrow? Dig the soil and make it grow. Food security run the show. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally. Feed the whole community. Everything agriculture. Building for the future. Hey, Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Cannabis industry growing fast, creating opportunities built to last. Medicinal herbs and business too. Education changing how we view. Greenhouse farming changing the game. Hydroponics helping the grain. Fishery, livestock, fruit tree line. Agriculture make the island shine. Support local every chance they get. Farmer working and don't forget.
Yes, greetings and welcome to the Everything Agriculture Show. It's another Friday evening, here, which is the weekends begin here in the Federation of Oli and Layamiga, which is the indigenous name for St. Kitts and Nevis, if you're a first-time listener. I'm your host, Bankie, for this evening, and my other co-host, Yahsonn Bankie. And our guest this evening will be Nadiv Mills, CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But before we get into the reasoning, let me say good evening to the folks in the neighboring islands, Sabre, Statia, St. Martin, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the folks over in Montserrat, Antigua and Barbuda, and wherever you're throughout the Windward and Leeward Islands. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Not forgetting the folks in the diaspora, North America, from the Florida Keys, so like my daughter in Houston and her husband there. Also folks over in Atlanta, New York, Chicago, wherever you're to the sound of my voice in the US and over in Canada, and also the folks over in Europe in those different time zones, and Africa. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We have some dedicated fans over there who would not go to sleep unless they listen to Yahsonn and myself, and you're the one who make this show what it is, and we appreciate that. And also, let me say good evening to the folks who come by every day religiously by Mansa's Last Stop, and big up Chef Amanis and Aisha, and also other sister Natasha over in the US. Also appreciate you guys who meet me and let me know you all do listen. Those who just drop by and let us know. Well, we appreciate what you're doing, and we will. And trust me, I don't know who listen, because number one, I don't have Facebook. Many of you tell me I need Facebook, but I can't keep up with this Facebook thing. So I like my WhatsApp alone, and I think that's gonna work good for me. I'm busy enough, I can't be tapped in this log into all this thing, can't keep up. I rather reason face to face and stuff like that. Keep it old school way, and that's the best way, looking people in the face and speaking to them. People hide behind computer and talk all kind of crap. I can't keep up. So just want to say I appreciate the encouragement and always welcome the reasoning, whether you're for a project or not. I'm not holding personal. Everybody have the right to share the views. It's all about reasoning, get the different perspective and the best way forward and stuff like that. So this evening, we're going to be speaking about cannabis. But before we get to that, let me say, big up Camp Kenda. Camp. Make sure I get this right, because this is very unique. Renee Anthony and her daughter and her son. So we call it Kenda Camp. They had a field trip today. Welcome to Healthy Choices at Mansa's farm. They came around 10 o'clock for about an hour. And trust me, them kids had me busy. Some from 4-year-old to a 9-year-old, so 6, 7, 8, very energetic. And these children, they do know their fruits and vegetables. They're very wise appearance, whereas some of you might think. because they're 4 and 5 and 6. Remember, they are your gene pool, so don't think. Remember when you are at that age, how you used to act and behave the same as well. Our children are just wiser than us, and they're going to test you, so gotta shout them out. So they had a very good time. So I want to mention their position, Team Rene. So that's Kenda Camp, and they had it for 2 weeks. Today was the final day. So the team, she's a past literacy coordinator, passionate about her learning, loves creating fun and engagement experiences for young learners, here to support every child and family. Yeah, when you big up yourself, then you have Ajane, or creative helper, creative, dependable, and always ready to lend a helping hand with a smile. Definitely, I monitor her today, engaging with the young children and them, and having them speaking and stuff like that. So she got a very bright future ahead of her. So I must commend her on that. So I was very impressed by most children her age would be shy about interacting with the children and stuff like that. She have a good future going ahead. Then you have, who knows this one, you're right. This one a different boy. The youth man here give me a popsicle, say, I can't touch cold things, blow my mind away. The youth man allergic to ice. I say, what the hell is this? Yeah, man, that the way. Yeah, he allergic to cold things. Otherwise, he get a reaction and swell up and stuff like that. Very frightening. Blow my mind. I hope I'm not saying name right now. Tizai. Oh my goodness, these children, this name. But yeah, my virgin, a junior helper, love to help, encourage others, and bring lots of energy to our team. Definitely, boy, he had me busy, boy. I got a lot of chat. Yeah, man. And then you have the last one here. First time I seen this lady, don't know this lady, Tamesia Stanley. Never met her before, but very nice lady. She's the counselor, here to care, listen, guide, supporting social emotional growth, and helping every child feel seen, heard, and valued. Beautiful. Yeah, man. Very nice lady. First time I met her, Tamesia Stanley. Don't know her. I asked about her, and then I think I was told she's the wife of Denzel Stanley. First time I met her, but very, very nice. So Denzel, big up yourself. I know Denzel very well. All right. So definitely have to shout out that team. So this was our second summer camp, Kenda camp. So look out for that parents next year. Register, support this young lady. She is very creative when it comes to the children, and them have everything drawn out and keep them busy learning different stuff each day. And so I think you all need to give her some extra money, because she's really going outside the way. Because the things I hear her doing, nobody else been doing this thing here. So she got a very creative mind. So if anyone in the education department is leaving, I think this young lady work in education, Rennie Anthony, she need a top up and she pay. Yeah, she too creative, but she got too much talent. She need a top up. So Yahsonn, what's going on with you? Yahsonn freeze. All right, until Yahsonn get back in. Good evening to our guests. Mr. Mills, how are you doing?
Hi, greeting Bankie and greeting to Yahsonn. I just want to say good evening to your listening and viewing audience, and good evening to the entire country on a whole. It's good to be here with you guys again to just reason and pass on some valuable information as it relates to the medicinal cannabis industry, and then answer any question that you might have.
All right, beautiful. For those who tuning in for the first time and listening, well, I never heard about this gentleman. So, who is Nadiv Mills, and what is your position when it comes to the medicinal cannabis industry?
Yes, so Nadiv Mills, I'm the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. The authority is the regulatory body responsible for, one, carrying out all the rules as set out in the SRO and establishing a medicinal cannabis industry.
Okay. Before we get back to you, let me come over back to my co-host, because I think you were frozen, so you didn't get to his greeting. So Yahsonn, how going on with you, and how is everything?
Yeah, man, global greetings. It's pleasure to be here in another edition of everything agriculture, and to be addressing this topic, cannabis, which is one that I think is very critical, but sometimes we don't necessarily get the sort of attention and public announcement sometimes that is necessary. So it's good to have the CEO Nadiv Mills here, one who I see is working very hard and very committed to the movement, and we're looking forward to the engagement, looking forward to be able to update the public on a lot of things and try to clarify a lot of things and help to get the public to be at ease and be more comfortable. And if they're not certain about certain things as well, then he'll be able to direct them to the office and the other persons who may be connected. So I'm looking forward to the engagement. Give thanks, everybody. Welcome to this edition. I want to encourage you to log on to our Facebook and our YouTube platform. Make sure you subscribe, click on the notification bell, and share in the meantime, so that we could have as many people following us here on this platform. So greetings, Nadif. Greetings, everybody. We're looking forward to engaging.
Yes, I was asking Nadiv to for those who tune in. So who is Nadiv and his position? So well, just to get into that, and then you come on, so we can start back over and go ahead fresh.
Okay, yes. So as I was saying, my name is Nadiv Mills. I'm the CEO of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority. The Medicinal Cannabis Authority is the regulatory body established by the Cannabis Act 2020. We're responsible for carrying out everything that was stated in the Cannabis Act, that is establishing a regulatory body. We are established and making sure that all the participants follow all the rules as set out in the SRO, that is the statutory rules and orders. So yeah, our responsibility is to make sure that the industry gets up and running according to the legislation that was passed surrounding it.
Okay, last week, Thursday and to Saturday, the Medicinal Cannabis Authority hosted a workshop with Michael Emmanuel as the one to chair the workshop. It was from basically 9 all day, 8 hours, yes. 9 hours in some days, very intensive, very long, and it was well attended, I must say. When I was invited to it, I wasn't know what to expected, but I had to make a decision to leave my farm to attend this thing. And workshop is something I'm always encouraged, and even if it's something I know about, you can always learn something extra, because every day we learn. So it's nothing that you can say, well, ain't nothing you can learn at this thing, something like this, because there's something is a plant that you're studying that is still unknown in many compounds. So you can always experience something different. Plus, you're meeting people, the interact with people, and networking is a very big plus and stuff like that. And hear people's views and reasoning is always that positive vibe. So I was glad to attend it, and at the same time, doing my observation and when how some respond, because most time in these events, people get excited and then they're going to talk a lot once they're comfortable within that environment. And environment was very comfortable for those who attended. And I know a lot of them are shy people, but a lot of them open up and ask questions, which is encouraged, and that is something good. A setting is very important that people can be comfortable where they're not judged when they're asking questions and nothing seems funny about the question. So that the host make it very comfortable for that. You all make it very comfortable at the same time and fun. So I must big up the young lady. Is Flanders?
Yes, Miss Flanders. Shaira Flanders.
Yes, we're doing the cheering and the hosting and stuff like that. Did a beautiful job and that. So she got to big up herself, definitely. And overall, everyone, and you yourself for bringing this thing together. So my outlook at the event, I mean, I grade hard, and the lecturer is a top-notch lecturer, so I have to give it 100%. If somebody deserves 100%, that is fine. It's just the only thing that could have been more was the hands-on part, but the theory and everything put together. And you understand, it is the practical part, but the theory, how then they present it, and the information, how it received, and how the question was forwarded to make sure everybody is comfortable and stuff like that. And they left and were eager to come back. Because the same people who come on the first day came back every day. That was something I make sure analyze, and even staff member was a part of it. And it's very rare you find, especially the weekend, because most of these guys, this the whole day, the Sabbath, and the Saturdays, so, and they showed up. So that was very important. So I must say kudos to you guys, and definitely I hope now this thing will happen where you're gonna explain what was used behind the workshop. So I
Yes,
comment
yes,
on
for
that.
sure.
So I turn it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Bankie. So the Medicinal Cannabis Authority, in partnership with the Department of Agriculture in St. Kitts and Nevis, we held a 3-day workshop. It was centered around the traditional cultivator program, which isn't set in legislation yet, but we just wanted to convey to interested persons the concept of this program that we hope to be in law pretty soon. So basically, the idea is for us to formulate a partnership with persons who had a relationship with cannabis, who may have been cultivating it in great areas of society, areas that we can't really say was legal, but we do acknowledge that they do have quite a bit of experience cultivating the plant. And now we want to usher them into the legitimate pathway. So we are intending to have a program where those persons can partner with the government in a reduced risk situation where the government can provide training like this 3-day program, where the government can provide starting material, whether it be seeds, clones, slips, where the government could provide soil, fertilizer, pesticide, and overall guidance for persons that are interested in getting into the medicinal cannabis space and want to, participate, but with as little risk as possible. So in this program, you would be able to cultivate for for the medicinal cannabis industry. As I said, starting material that we choose for you, make sure that it's of high quality and persons will be able to cultivate under our standards, most likely on government property. And at harvest, the government would acquire that material and use it to make byproducts, which we can then use to generate revenue for the country. So that's the entire concept of the traditional cultivator program. So the training was firstly to convey that message, to let everyone to understand the concept, the idea behind it, and then to train persons through the entire life cycle of the plant about the cultivation license, the do's and the don'ts, and then finally about pesticide and post-harvest care. So it was a very comprehensive workshop. Initially, when I reached out to Dr. Emmanuel, that was one of the things that I told him that is very critical for us, because we're going to take up 3 days, 2 working days out of people's time. We wanted to make sure that the information that was being shared was very valuable. And then also add, we did have 4 sessions from Grower IQ, which is the national track and trace software vendor. They were able to demo a few of their features. Granted, we do know that we need some more hands-on training, just coupled with that first introduction, but it was still a way to get persons aware of what is required in this industry. So that was the aim of the entire 3-day training.
Yes, you mentioned in the training the growers IQ, which is a software where you have to everything you do on a daily basis from beginning to end is done. You have to document it into the
Yes.
software, which track everything you do. So there's a lot of moving parts. But one of the things I realized is that with the program is that the government put in basically 100% of the inputs. So the farmer just have to, the grower just have to grow the plant, guided how they're supposed to grow the plant and do what they're supposed to do. So you see, this will take more training, and many people are not accustomed with such regulated industry where you go cannabis or you want tomatoes. But when it comes to this way now, the medicinal part of it is very, very on point. Everything is done and documented, and tracing of every plant, and even up to the dead plant. You got to package it, close it, and register, and then hand it over, because everything should be accountable for. So it's not a system you want to do what you want, and then at the time of harvest, it is taken back to a government facility where it is cured and processed, and then I guess you get paid for the wet weight, which all the balance out, car mostly plant on lose like 50% of the weight in a sense by the time it is cured and stuff like that. So, and then I realize, as you mentioned, the grow gonna be done on a government property, not on the grower's personal property. In some cases, can it be done on the government and the person property? If they're part of the if it's easier, because most of these things are easier in a confined environment, closer to the person at their home, where they can monitor more than to live in one part. So how is that gonna work?
Yes, so we're considering making special provisions for people to participate in this program on their private property. But just for everyone's information, one of the requirements for participation in this industry is ownership of land where you're going to operate this business. So either you own the land yourself, or you could get permission from someone else to use the land. At this time, I can't say government is actually distributing, giving out any land for any one license holder to operate. So that is why we're trying to create like a communal space where multiple license holders could operate for this traditional cultivator program. Of course, that can create problems in terms of pests and sanitation and that type of stuff. However, for the administration, for us, it would make it easier for us to deploy all our resources in one location. Therefore, everything that is required as far as tracking, as far as security measures, as far as sanitation, we can ensure that all of that happens on this one government facility. We would have full oversight of it and make sure that at the end, everyone gets a product that can pass all the standards. And at the end of the day, it can be valuable for everyone that participated in its cultivation. However, I said we will give special provisions for persons who have demonstrated, one, they have land or rights to cultivate on the land, and then they can set up the facility as it is required in the SRO, which is security measures, restricted areas, sanitation protocols. As long as you could set it up to the book, we would support it. However, as I said, the TCP, the Traditional Cultivator Program, is just to assist, a little bit of hand-holding to make sure that the chances of success is as much as it can possibly be.
The concept is a our concept. I wouldn't say is a whole concept, because I, for one, don't love 100% free things. I always feel that when something is given, the farmer should have some kind of responsibility, stuff like that, input. You see what I mean? When it comes to negotiating part.
So it's not 100% free. It's not. There's an application fee right now on the books for $100. But as you could see, with all that we're going to be investing and giving, $100 is really not much at all. But
of course,
it isn't free.
I'm just that's fine. And then the next thing is that farming in a one area, especially in greenhouses with different farmers, not gonna plant the same time. You see what I mean? And even if everybody plant the same time, because of management system, with pests and fungi and different stuff, things will happen. That's just the reality. You see what I mean? So
For sure,
it is
for
best
sure.
if it's one farmer who own all the greenhouses, then he can monitor and work and get a routine. If he do spray or whatever, he will spray all the time in every all at one time and not stress. So that is always my concern. I don't know. I don't have to figure it out properly, but definitely I know you figure well it may be easy in one area and monitor, but in science world, this gonna cause problem earlier. Whether
No.
it's tomato your plant, I'm just giving it from a scientific point of view. If it's one, I would say if it's one on everything, then it doing all the good, then it's them. It's them dealing with, but you got different people, and then
Yes.
different people still coming from different areas. There's a lot of traffic walking in and then going and stuff like that. So you have to have that is the issue. Everybody entering the same area but going different places, but Tenegon still walk to the main central area and all these things. So it's a ticklish thing, but
The
I
logistics about
definitely,
it will be difficult
yeah,
for sure. But as
yes,
far as pesticides and harmful pesticides, remember in the program itself, we will be steering you onto the less harmful pesticides and
of
chemicals,
course,
a more organic approach to the farming.
yes,
So we do imagine that everyone who is participating should be using good chemicals,
yes,
good pesticides, good fertilizers. However, people still have their own nuances and own personal way
yes,
that they do things. So it would just be a challenge to balance both of those things,
of
the
course, because if
individuality of each person,
yes,
and still trying to be safe.
yes, because even if I'm gonna use neem, and I mean, he got Guinness next to here, and he out there spray his neem and whatever he cocktail. Me know
Yes,
I drift come from me thing. You see, so that is
yes,
that is
yes,
just the point. Because then I might
absolutely.
be allergic to neem. You see, in my own
Yes.
personal space, as that's just its space is just too small. But I get the drift. And next thing, I'm not sure if you are looking at this way. Funding gonna be available for those who want to partake in the industry where they can get whether 100,000, 200,000, 50,000 to build a small greenhouse to take part in the industry when they're like, because startup is a key where they can get cameras and all this different stuff to meet the standards that required by the industry and stuff like that.
So at this time, I can't say there are any funding sources available for that. That is where right now we're just trying to encourage a lot of partnerships. Either you're partnering with the government to be a part of this TCP, or you're finding members out there in the public who might want to invest in what you have going on. You might have the ideas, the expertise, and you could find a partner in the private sphere who has the capital and will want to invest into what you have going on. There are some people who have already approached the MCA who are willing to invest in persons that have similar mindsets to them. So if it is that you are looking for capital funding, you could approach us and we could help to connect you with someone in the public sphere.
Okay,
But as far
so
as
how?
government funding, currently, no. Sorry.
Yes, I got you. I understand. Well, hopefully in the near future, the government will have to look into something like that because definitely, if people would rather have access stuff funding from the government at a minimum interest and of their choice, and those who want to seek other places with private persons, then that is fine. But so how soon now are you all looking at this traditional growers partnership with the government? How soon timeline?
So I can't give you an exact timeline, but I would say as soon as possible. There's a few critical things that need to happen before then. We need to establish the government nursery, germplasm, where we'll be getting all of our starting material from. So that is critical. For us to start this program, we'd have to make sure that we have that up and running. So all participants in this program could have a place that they can safely get quality material for them to start cultivating. So the conversations have already begun with the department on St. Kitts and on Nevis. So we would hope to have the details ironed out pretty soon. I would say 2 months, hopefully, the earliest, but no later than November, for sure.
To start, you mean?
Yes, to start, yes.
Start growing and ready to harvest by January, February. That's what you mean?
Well, if we start in November, 3 months, so about February, March, sure.
Yahsonn?
Well, I'm listening and I'm just trying to put together a couple of things because after cultivation and harvest now, is there a market ready for the supply? Like you guys have, like an external market, or what is the plan to be able to service the local market, the traditional market, or how is that going to work out?
Yeah, so we don't imagine that the local market would be our target, at least not our main target. We are looking to really provide inputs for production for international partners. Basically the oils, the creams, the extracts for our international partner to then turn into a byproduct. We haven't built these relationships yet. We have started conversations with a few interested partners in America and a couple in Europe. Nothing is concrete yet. However, just to add a little bit more clarity to what we're trying to do, we're going into fresh frozen. So at the time of harvest, the idea is to freeze the cannabis, get it down to temperature so that the trichomes become brittle and they can fall off easier. That way, we don't have to cure the cannabis at all or wait for it to dry. We can freeze it straight after harvest, and the next day we could start processing it for the cannabinoids, THC, CBD, and other cannabinoids in the plant. That way, that would reduce the processing costs, processing time, and then we could easily transfer it into international markets because we have been reliably informed that the international market is really craving this fresh frozen product.
Back up. Can we miss the one you just know? I was just explaining where this process where you cut the herb when you have to don't grow it, and you get fresh.
Yes.
And I'll explain then you're gonna get paid for your wet weight, but when you're gonna get 50%. But this is not the case. you have
so that's what I wanted to. Yeah.
You're frozen.
It's gonna be frozen. So yes. So we'll be able to determine the value of it right away. Yeah. By the next day when we wash it and extract the trichomes. Yes.
So when you talk about freezing, you're talking about the process of freeze drying. That process where it's sort of like
No, not freeze drying, but freeze drying can be used as well. But we're talking about freezing the plant, putting it in a freezer so that the trichomes itself become brittle and easily fall off.
Freeze meat.
Yes.
Like in an abattoir, and then you go chop it up with the bandsaw.
Yes. So the idea
I heard mentioned in the workshop, but my mind was on freeze dry. But can remember I traveled as a technician at Southern University. Can I hear you mention you have partnered with others, with people in the US and in the Europe reaching out. But what about the link with Southern University? They already have two others in
that was
yes.
In the US, yeah, that's what we're speaking about because they helped us to come up with a few products who these oils can go into. So we already have an idea of the products that these oils can go into, as long as we meet the standard that they're looking for.
Yeah, yes, sir. Did you ever hear about this freeze weed?
Fresh
frozen. I have heard about it in a sense, but what I've heard about it in a different way where it is used for a process to get another aspect of cannabis. I think they call it like the crystals. So it's like a
Yes.
higher end product of the cannabis. So
Yes.
like out there, you have like, okay, so we more focus on just the flower or the bud, just like that.
Flower. Yes.
But
Yes.
out
Yes.
here, they do the oil extraction. They do like a wax. Then they do like a shatter. They call it shatter.
Yes.
And
Yes. That
the
is.
the actual crystals now, where they're taking off the trichomes and the crystals, and freezing is a kind of part of the process that they use to do that. And the crystals itself, is like a higher end. Because
So this is
usually I guess
almost
the
the process
THC
of
is a bit
some
higher.
making hash. When they're using ice, in some cases they use
To
ice
some
to
to
get,
some
Yes.
extent,
get out the
Yes.
but
crystals them.
Similar
But,
concept.
but I
Yes.
got you.
Similar concept. Yeah.
yeah, but
But
it kind of showcases the fact that, like I said, there are a lot of different higher end products or different variation of products that you could have from the cannabis. But it's just that for us traditionally, we just focus more on the using of the bud in the form of smoking per se.
That's
Interesting.
That's why
Go
I
ahead.
would say that, to answer your question, that's why I would say that we don't imagine that this program would encroach upon the domestic market, because as you rightfully said, the domestic market is more so concerned about the flower. We're more concerned about the extract from the plant to then export to international markets.
Okay,
but
well,
what
I'm glad
about
that you.
like places? Yeah, guide your son.
Right. Now I was just going to say, I'm glad that he made a point to differentiate that aspect of it, to point out that in terms of the folks who are more interested in the flower and the bud and so on, that market is not necessarily the market that the medicinal authority is seeking to push at this point. So quite interesting. Go
Well, he
ahead, Banky.
said
What?
not fully, you know. He not say
No,
100%. He said
no,
not
so
fully.
then just now the TCP, in the traditional
Yes.
cultivator program, which is associated with traditional cultivators license, we're not focused on the dry flower. Now, if you get a regular cultivator's license, which is broken up into 6 tiers based off of the area that you want to cultivate, if you decide you're going into flower production, that is up to you. That's again full autonomy. You bear all responsibility. You just have to make sure that you hit the standards and that you're selling to a licensed operator and you're not doing anything illegal. You could do whatever you want in that type of business. But for the TCP, we're focusing on extracts, which is oils, shatter, as you said, and different type of extracts, usually from the fresh frozen process.
Well,
And
I
okay.
am getting a bit of clarification here, and I'm glad that this is coming up. So you're saying that you have the TCP, which is what you said, the traditional
Cultivators
cultivators
program.
program. Also, so this
Yes,
is a
program.
specific program that is put in
Yes,
place by government, who is
yes.
going to approve, set the standard, so to speak, and then have these farmers trained, so to speak, to grow according to those standards, and then they'll be growing specifically to meet the demands of that specific
That
industry.
program. Yes,
And
that
then
program.
and then you have what you said now is the regular traditional growers
Regular
who would,
cultivators license.
okay,
Regular
regular
cultivator.
cultivators. Also, then for the TCP, that's a different license that you're gonna have, or you don't need a
Yes,
license for that.
you would have a traditional cultivator's license. So the legislation speaks about of 2 cultivation license. There's a traditional cultivator license, and then there's a regular cultivation license. They have different costs, and we're establishing different rules for both of them.
Okay, so what is the average cost right now for the TCP? So you could
TC
have a comparison.
on the books right now, the application fee is $100, and there is no license fee. The license fee is waived, so there's no license fee. And then for this lowest tier of a regular cultivator's license, it is $1,500 application fee and then $1,000 license fee for 3 years, over 3 years.
Okay. Okay. And that's the
So,
regular. And you said
that's the regular.
You would have, so to speak, the rights to grow, I use it for whatever purpose you want. You're not necessarily stuck to a program that.
No.
Okay, so
The TCPs.
So
you have to have a buyer. You have to have a buyer. You have to have a buyer.
No,
so that's what I'm saying.
Everything
now.
You need a
is
buyer.
more risk. It is more risk. The TCP
If you have a
is
buyer,
less risk.
you have to have a buyer.
Yeah.
You could grow it, but
So-
who you sell it to? And if you
Exactly.
who you sell it to?
Well, that is
Unless
what I
you
was.
have
That is what I
an
was
area to
getting
sell,
to.
a next license to sell as a lounge or apply for a lounge or something like that, where you can sell it like that, that kind of way.
So to add clarity, the only way you would be able to distribute with a regular cultivator's license is either you or your business partner, like somebody you have a relationship with, has a manufacturing license, they have a research license, they have a dispensary license, or export license. So then you could funnel your cultivated product into those licensed businesses.
So why couldn't have been one license from Yahsonn have a business license to grow cannabis and you don't pay $2,500 for the quarter acre? But why can't have all of that process and that could not include in the license process for the same whatever? Why you have all these 7 different licenses for? And they need a security license to go transport it for. I mean, I understand that. So Yahsonn need 8 different licenses. Then it make no sense. Because how come Yahsonn a farmer in the license move tomato? You don't need no license to no security. You don't need no license to sell. You don't need no this. It's just you see what I mean? That make no sense.
Bankie,
Yes.
Yeah, it makes sense to you, but it makes
sense to you?
those,
It makes sense to you?
not to me. It makes sense to those who have an intention to generate revenue from the industry.
Yeah, but this
And
is
this, huh? But this
is
is
a lot
what
of license.
these are some of the things that we are looking at, and I am carefully listening to the interaction, because this is kind of what we would have been saying from the beginning, that the industry, so to speak, is sort of hijacked by the government to focus on the area in which they see that they could make revenue from. Other than that, personally, we're not seeing much actions in the other areas that may be of more interest to us, the average individuals who may not have any interest at all in this aspect of it, but they are focused on rolling out that aspect and making sure that all of the things that should be sorted out in this field is sorted out, and that is what is happening here. So I mean, not if you are in a position where I can't beat you for a lot of things, because you personally have tried to correct a lot of these problems, right? By reaching out to the Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs and trying to help them to do some of the things that they should have been doing from a long time ago. So, I mean, I got to give you credence for that. But I respect your position, and I understand your position. But for me, from the journalistic side of me, I'm just putting out this side of it so that people can also see and understand that this is what is happening. The government technically is hijacking the industry by focusing on what the aspect that we didn't even take them to court for, because Sankofa didn't take them to court for the medical cannabis. But this is the area that they see is of interest and they are focusing on. So, yes, Bankie.
You told journalists on me. You realize, no? You told journalists on me. You realize that something?
just to add,
The man said journalistic side.
It would be costly to stack license. However, we would encourage it if you don't have the capital means. But we just want to say it does give an opportunity for collaboration to happen, which the authority is just trying to encourage. If you could build a partnership, you have a group of brethren. One is really good at the cultivation side of things. He handles the cultivation license, and then another partner gets the manufacturing license. And then you cultivate and you're selling it to him because you already built a relationship. But then you might be cultivating so good, another manufacturer with a license might want to buy your product, and then you build a relationship, and then that supply chain open up. So we're just trying to build different connections in society. Right now, we're not going to get the support from government and the funding. So it's really going to be grassroots, build from the ground up kind of thing, with a lot of partnerships and working together to get this done.
So
But
now,
a number of things still, as I am looking at this, right? There are a number of things that still would need to be in place, especially for the regular cultivator, right? Because, okay, for example, yes, you may be able to develop a relationship with a manufacturer, unless this manufacturer at this point may have that export license. Like, we still seemingly would have some weight where, for example, how ready are we to put forward a dispensary license if one is supposed to apply right now?
So I would say the dispensary license is actually the easiest to require in terms of regulation, because it isn't a big facility. It's almost like a retail shop. Just make sure that you have restricted areas, proper security measures, that kind of thing. So we do have some interest. No one has bite the bullet yet and take the leap of faith, but we are encouraging it. Anybody that is interested.
So you're saying right now, if I have the funding to apply for that license, I can apply right now, and as long as I put whatever, like if I have a building already and I put in whatever you guys require. That's it?
Security measures. That's all you need. Yeah.
so where you get the help from?
Well, you have
Help
to be from a legal source, a legal cultivator, a legal
Where?
manufacturer.
From
Right
where?
now, we don't have
Overseas?
any.
Import it?
Well,
Import it?
right now we don't have any licensed cultivators. But if we did, the dispensary would buy it from the licensed cultivator or the licensed manufacturing facility. They can also
So
import it, but we're discouraging such.
how far away are we from having these licensed cultivators?
I would say any minute now. We have completed applications in our office in the final stages of review. So it could be any moment.
Okay.
So how much
So Bankie, that
application within this amount?
I would say several, a handful, maybe about 5 completed applications.
Okay.
And that's not including the TCP, the traditional. This is just regular cultivation license, interest in manufacturing license, and the dispensary.
So there's a limit in the amount of license when it comes to regular cultivators license. The traditional growers like no amount when it comes to
So
growers.
the legislation speaks to the dispensaries and controlling the concentration of them. Basically, they wanted to model the density of pharmacies. But just looking at that around town Bastia, they got a bunch of pharmacies, maybe about 7 or so pharmacies. We don't imagine that there will be 7 dispensaries in Bastia. So that's basically the ballpark, looking at the dispensaries in your area, in your island, and seeing how much there is, and then that's the type of density we want try to exceed.
Okay. Now these training have begun and stuff like that to encourage growers to come out and partake in this training and to improve their grow. is what is it put in place where the government and the high command, the police force, how to suppress this when it comes to the cannabis, where no more arrest is being taking place? Because if in order for something like this to work, as you say, which in if you have five and more others, it means people have that interest, which means people want this thing to be relaxed and don't want to be locked up and all this and be harassed. So where is the line where you can get to trust the system? No, these things will be happening, they wouldn't be kicked down and their family, their children, they wouldn't have to go through no embarrassment and all these things and violating their space and all this madness. How is this conversation going? The High Command. I know the board have people from the High Command and the Cannabis Authority. So how is this conversation going? Because is the board and the Agriculture Department facilitating this thing, which means the minister sanction it and the cabinet sanction it. So is it critical of it where people even more will come out and partake if they have the interest? You see what I mean? If you can guarantee to buy your stuff, more will want to partake. But is that trust they're looking from where if they come out, this thing now wouldn't and then they start to be targeted. People don't want that. So what's the way forward with that? I'm not sure you can answer that.
Yeah, in the beginning of the year, I know that we had a lot of run-ins with the law as it was associated with cannabis.
Yes.
I myself, from my limited position, tried to remedy situations as best as I could, making sure that things like the freedom of conscience license was available, making sure that persons could register for the Rastafari rights and recognition and register their places of assembly. So those were the steps that I took. I even went a step further on the island of Nevis specifically. I met with, I think, the top cop over there. What's his name? Carty. I met with Carty, and I basically just shared the information with him. Was completely transparent, showed him the person that's already registered for these certificates and license over in Nevis so that he's aware of it. And just from my vantage point, it looks like the arrests quiet down. I'm not sure if people still getting arrested, but it seemed like it quiet down from my end. And that's pretty much it, because I'm kind of a small fry in the bigger scheme of things. There isn't much I could really do just for me to champion the case. We need the support of the local cultivators, people who have already taken the chance to do it, who have built up experience. We need these people to push the industry forward. I always relay that message to the board, to the Commissioner of Police, to anyone in law enforcement that I speak to. So that's what I'm doing from my end. And I hope the police is listening. Hopefully they can do something from their end as well, but it's different bodies and, we kind of move independently of each other.
Okay.
Well, Nadiv, this is one of the challenges that I find within the system. I mean, I mentioned this earlier that I gave you a lot of credit for, taking the leap of faith and, taking the steps by showing that you're really interested in this industry and you're not just looking from the medical cannabis side, even though that is what you are primarily aligned to. That is what your job description really fits to. But in listening to the concerns of the people and the public and so on, you would have heard of their cries, you would have seen what the scenarios are, and you would have taken some steps, like I mentioned, making that link between yourself and the Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs, which is a ministry that is really responsible for the freedom of conscience and the Rastafari sacramental, So you would have done your part in trying to get the regulations in place so that people could actually apply and have the licenses, get the licenses and so on. I think, for example, the 5 trees part of it, you can pay $100 and get that regulations. I think there was some issue in relation to land and making sure that you have ownership of the land and so on, especially where the Rastafari sacramental thing is concerned and so on. However, the difficulty that I think we are faced with is, and a lot of the average people are faced with, is not getting the communication from those who should be giving the communication, because you get the argument from the police that their job is to enforce the laws. And if the government, the executive and those who are part of the legislative who should put the regulations in place are not keen on putting these regulations in place and are not doing their part in terms of, even if they do put them in place, come and inform, do some PRO work and so on, so that it takes away a lot of the fight from you, and it takes away from a lot of the kind of hate and fight that the police get too, for sometimes just seeking to do what they really hired to do. What can be done to bridge that gap? Because I think there's a serious communication gap between the police, who are supposed to maintain the law, and those who are putting the law in place, and there's no serious effort is made to bridge that gap. What are your thoughts, and how do you think that this could be addressed?
Yeah, so I think it would just take more collaboration. We probably need to convene a meeting, as I said, with all of us, police, AG's office, the MCA, just so that everyone can be on board and make sure that what we're aiming to do is aligned. Because as I say, we're trying to push a whole industry, the arrests, the unwanted persecution and harassment of persons who are trying to deal with the same plant. It's just hurting the cause. So as a government, to ensure that we're not confusing the general public, I think it's best that, I'm going to push again to have a joint meeting to make sure that as we roll out, because we're in the final stages now, we already started training people. So just to make sure as we roll out that everybody is on the same page and all of our actions align.
So
there's something I wanted to ask you, Bankie, 1 second, in relation to the Nevis side of things now, because that's a little difficulty that we're having. I listened to the Premier several times saying, well, the medical cannabis, it's federal, and so the hands are tied to some extent. What plans are there, if any, in terms of having maybe a representative on Nevis that can deal with and address those things that should be dealt with? Like, for example, right now, if a person in Nevis need that license for 5 trees, so to speak, like I'm just using that, right? They will still have to come to St. Kitts to get that. If they need the sacramental for Rastafari, they still have to come to St. Kitts for that. So it seems as if like it's just a St. Kitts thing, and I guess that's the argument that the government is making. Is there any plans to have something or someone or arm of the medical authority and Nevis to cater for Nevisians in this regard?
Okay. Just for clarity, we do have these same forms and documents over on the island of Nevis, although it's not formally held, but Ras Iri Penny, he has forms for freedom of conscience and to register a place of assembly. But yeah, to formalize it, I have had conversations with Minister Honorable Eric Evelyn, and he is very enthusiastic, I would say, from the initial conversation. So we hope to have a meeting very soon where we can establish something formal like what you're speaking about, Yahsonn. And I actually think we do have some farms at Agriculture Department as well. But after a meeting with the minister, we'll be able to establish something much more formal where we could have a constant presence on the island of Nevis, so persons don't feel like they always have to travel over to St. Kitts. I would say we have a good relationship with the Agriculture Department in Nevis, and Mr. Randy Elliott is always willing to assist however he can. and we are already on board, devising the plan to have the nursery set up, established on Nevis as well. So yes, we're not leaving Nevis out at all. The training for the TCP, it was just unfortunate that Marshal Emmanuel had to come for such a short time with this last visit. Usually we'd have a session over in Nevis as well. And we do plan to have one in short order. And if Dr. Emmanuel can't come back for that, we have already started making plans for someone else to facilitate. But Nevis, you will be having your training session very soon, in a couple of weeks actually.
Yeah, that's very good to hear. Very good to hear that Nevis is not left out. One, two, it's very good to hear that the minister is very enthusiastic. That the sound is very good. In relation to Randy, I think I would have heard, maybe you can clarify and verify. I heard that he is now on the cannabis board, the
Yes,
medical
he's a
cannabis
board member.
board.
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
so all right. So verification, Randy. I will be coming to you, Randy. I'll be looking for you. Okay, but in the meantime, no, for the public, I guess, because you just mentioned that they could get the farms and so on. I think a lot of people are not fully aware of some of these things. So maybe because we would have focused a lot on the training that you would have done recently and the fact that the government is rolling out and seeking to roll out that medical cannabis industry. Maybe you can take a few minutes and clarify a little bit in terms of the freedom of conscience aspect and the Rastafari fundamental freedoms as well. And then maybe there are one or two questions that we could gather from that aspect. So let the folks know in terms of the 5 trees aspect, how would they stand with that, so that they could get some clarity from the authority, at least from the medical authority, even though I know you don't necessarily represent the ecclesiastic side. You would have worked with them and have the information at hand so you could present it. So please do.
Okay, yes. So these were just these came about because of the judgment in the Ras Sankofa case. So every adult citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis has the right to cultivate 5 cannabis plants on their property as an expression of their freedom of conscience. So the act itself says that you may register or you may apply for a license for this purpose. It goes on to list a price for this license, which is $100, but it uses the word may. This is the gray area here, or the area which has caused much controversy. In Nevis specifically, some of the police are acting as if it says you shall or you must have a license, and which is why we have seen that most of the persons who have sought to get this license, this freedom of conscience license, has come from the Nevis end. So I would say 90% of the persons with a freedom of conscience license right now are from Nevis, are living on the island of Nevis. And then additionally, there's the Rastafari Rights and Recognition Act, which allowed Rasta groups to register themselves as a faith-based organization, similar or equivalent to a church. Our church would register. And then they can also register their place of assembly, which could, wherever the Rasta organization gathers, the law allows them to cultivate cannabis, which is their sacrament, at an unlimited rate, however they see fit. So they could plant however much plants for their sacrament. They could manufacture it into oils, tinctures, however they want to process it for their religious reasons. They are free to do so under this Rastafari Recognition Act. So those are the 2 things. As of right now, we have about 20 registered places of assembly for Rastafari. These is people who already have certificates. However, the limiting factor in this arrangement is that you must have ownership of the land, or you have to have some sort of documentation proving that the lawful owner gave you permission to use your space for that reason.
Okay, fair enough. And folks listening, I hope that you guys would have heard from the authorities what the positions are. There are a number of things that we could challenge and should challenge, but you might not necessarily be the person to challenge these things. But just for conversation, like one would want to question, if you have a constitutional right, why should you get a license to exercise such constitutional right? And these are some of the things that maybe need to take on a constitutional case where this is concerned. You spoke to the gray area in terms of saying may and not shall, right? And these are things that No, there was a question I wanted to ask because I think
yes, and just to play devil's advocate, because I did hear a very good argument for why. So someone told me recently it is a constitutional right for you to vote, but you still need a voter's ID and you still must be a certain age. So I just be devil's advocate, just something to think about.
okay.
You could drive, but your driver's license to drive too.
See?
I need insurance too, so that don't hold water. that doesn't make sense. You see what I mean? Remember, it's your constitutional rights. If something is your rights, it means you shouldn't have to sign up because you don't need it.
But that's what they're saying. It's your constitutional right to vote as well, but you still have to register to vote. That's what the person said.
Yeah, but registering is still not a license, and it's not something that you got to pay for. You just got to go and sign up, meet whatever requirements, and that's about it. But in relation to the 5 plants, the 5 trees, which I challenge also, because when the case for Sankofa was made, it was also highlighted that the Constitution allowed for adults over 18 to cultivate any amount of cannabis. However, the government sought to limit it, right? Now, there is an argument from the constitutional side that if something is constitutional, if you're going to seek to impede that constitutional right in any way, shape, or form, you must use what they call in the law least restrictive methods or means. Now, if I have a constitutional right to grow as many plants as I want, and then you limit me to 5, is that really the least restrictive means? Food for thought. Anyway, in terms of the 5 plants now, though, that they have sought to limit, for clarity, is it 5 plants per household or 5 plants per adult living in the homes? Because I think there is some misconception with the police and the authorities and so where this is concerned. So I would really love a little bit of clarity. Is it 5 trees per household, or each adult in that home have the right to cultivate 5 trees? Because you may have 2 or 3 or 4 adults living in a home. So I'm just trying to get that clarity to some extent.
So it seems like it's 5 plants per household, regardless of how many adults living in that space. But as I said, we're not the authority based off of these religious acts and laws. So I really don't want to overstep my boundary at all. But from how it is being determined by the enforcers of the law, which is the police, it seems like it is 5 plants per household. If you could find a way to prove that it's separate households, for example, you might get tenants, in the apartment complex or something like that. You could prove if you build up something in the back of the house, it's still one land, but you could obviously have 2 dwellings on one plot of land, something like that. But it seems like it is one household, and that is how the police is enforcing it. So I wouldn't advise anyone to go over the 5.
No, well, I'm not saying that people should get up and try to break the law or anything, but I'm just trying to see if I could make sense of it. Because, okay, if as an adult, 18 or over, that is, according to the Constitution, my fundamental rights to grow cannabis. Okay, yes, I'm limited to 5 plants, but
Get your own house, that would mean. So even if you're a husband and wife, my wife have to move out the house, you got your own 5 tree. You see what I mean?
see,
If my adult child
that's
live
what I'm
in the
saying.
house, these laws are written
No, I
by
mean,
emotion.
it's not you, Nadiv. So
Yeah.
you don't have to take it on.
Yeah.
So it's not you.
Okay.
We're just highlighting the
Yeah.
issue and the challenges
Yes.
that are surrounding the issues. You're here to listen, so I guess maybe you can then maybe use the information now to say, hey, boy, this is one of the arguments that I will have to present when we have these sort of meetings and so on. So it's not necessarily that I'm trying to corner you here in like that. But basically, these are some of the questions and things that we challenge, and I think do need some attention as well, because
Yes.
here is it that you guys are going full speed with the other side, which is the side that benefits the government. And this is why we have some of these challenges in the public space, because we are finding that the government are seeking to do things that are beneficial to them, whilst ignoring us, the average people, who would have been the ones who actually even took them to court for us to even reach to this stage. So you have, for example, we talk about they came with a regulation or law when it comes to smoking in the public. And now it's not that I'm trying to promote smoking in the public. However, on the first phase, it was fought down by the public because they saw the discriminatory actions that would have been taken, because only cannabis was singled out and you were going to be charged $500. They went back in the house and then they said, okay, you can't smoke in public, nothing at all, whether it's cigarette, BD, cigar, cannabis, unless you're in a designated smoking area. However, up to this point, the government and those who are in authority have not identified any designated smoking areas, but they are going around handing out tickets. So which means it seems as if it is more an effort to generate revenue again, while punishing the people for something that they should actually have a right to. So my argument is, put some designated smoking places designated smoking areas in place. I mean, a Nevis.
Music festival, yes, I go to music festival once a year.
I'm going to deal with that just now. I'm going to deal with music festival just now. Look at down on the beach, for example. What is so hard if you're saying people are coming by the established businesses and start smoking? What is it so hard in identifying an area, maybe down on the beach under some tree or something, clean out under a clammy cherry tree, something, and say, look, if you guys want to smoke, here is an area or areas that is designated smoking. Now, if you meet them outside of those areas now, and you say you're going to administer a ticket, then I can work with that. I can understand that, right? And that is just on the smoking side. Now, as Bankie now speaks to the music festival, here is it also, again, the public is being punished to some extent because you already put these laws in place, but no regulations. For example, if I have a small business place and I want to have a 420 smoking-free zone area, at this point, I can't go to the authority, which is supposed to be, I think, the same Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs, to get a license.
Ministry of
It's under
Health.
medical?
Yes. Designated smoking areas is the Ministry of Health.
So that's a whole, so it's 3 different ministries cannabis is under?
Yes. Yeah, I understand.
I'm learning something now. I'm learning something today now, because all along I was thinking just 2. So I'm learning something here now. Okay.
No, the one down the
Well,
head.
okay, but here is it though. Here's the point that I'm trying to make though with this though. That as a small business, you can't go and get that license because the Ministry of Health that I'm learning now has not have those licenses ready for the small businessman. But they have made provisions for themselves by giving music festival a temporary 420 friendly zone. So what we are seeing
Where the
is
farm come
and
from?
this is from our
What
Rasta
farm they use?
perspective. This is from what farm they
What
use.
farm they use? Yeah.
I don't know what farm they use, but we know that for the
Which mean they
past
have
3-4
farm,
years.
Yahsonn? Which mean they have farm? They
I
have
don't know.
application.
I don't know. But for the past 3-4
Okay.
years, they have gotten it done. So we feel like we are being punished, even though we took the government to court and win the government still trying to ignore what we want and not what we want. What the judge would have said we have our constitutional rights to do. Because they're claiming that, well, they still want to control and it's going to be hard for them to control. So in an effort for them to still want to have the level of control what they have, they want to infringe upon our constitutional rights. While on the other side, running with it to try to make millions, and those who were persecuted, ridiculed, locked up, still here fighting and battling to try to figure out if they could do it and got to be hiding in a corner. Bankie get locked up, Jama get locked up. I mean, this is the kind of frustration, and what we are seeking to do is get those at the helm to at least listen and take actions to assist us with what we constitutionally have the rights to. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I know it's a mouthful, but I wanted to get out some of these things so that people could understand from our perspective that we're not just talking these things. We actually have the rights to, but those who can help us exercise our rights freely are opting to still put on some level of control while they're trying to run with the industry what we were getting fight for. So that is the difficulty that we are having. So Bankie, I don't know if you want to respond, how you want to respond to a bit of what I just pointed out.
Well, I just want to say that I share your sentiments 100%, you know. I have been asking for these things to be made available because as part of the government, I feel like we do share some responsibility in making sure that these things are available so our citizens can follow the rules, you know. If we're responsible for setting the rules and making these things available, if they're not there, you know, we bear some of that responsibility. So I would just like to use this platform now to encourage those, you know, to try to make these things available so that persons who want to abide by the rules and the laws can do so. That's it.
All right. We're gonna take a break and then we'll come back into the conversation and the reasoning. While the technician, if you're there, we can go straight into the break and then we come back with the reason and the second half. All right. Technician seem to ready.
If not, I'll just read through some of the comments in the meantime.
Yes, until everything ready. Yes.
Until we get that sorted out. So on the YouTube side, we got Oliver Leiber, that's Ali, the honeyman from up Monkey Hill, St. Peter's there. He says, good night, kings, I'm here, night all. Eskari says, good night, blessings. Petro Jamat says, greetings. What a vision. You'll be smuggling it? Corresponding banks aren't on board? Yes, I smoked frozen weed in Canada in 2000. Ziploc bags. Why don't you grow male trees for CDB medicinal? Petro Jamat says, only way to buy will be with a doctor's certificate. Well, he's asking a question. Wifey asks for says, I agree, Bankie. Sub-Zero says, all these licenses is what the bull refuse. Slaughterhouse says, greetings and love, kings and brethren. He says, it's cheaper to continue growing illegally. Sub-Zero says, it's cheaper to continue growing illegally. Petro Jamat says licenses in Barbados is nearly 200,000 is the cheapest. Petro Jamat says if it's truly about medicinal, why no health ministry is dealing with it? Well, Petra Jamat, we just learned that the health ministry is dealing with an aspect of it, and that has to do with the 420 friendly
Designated
zone,
smoking areas.
designated smoking area. So then it should be the Ministry of Health that I should be seeking to challenge in terms of administering and putting out these designated smoking areas then.
Yes,
I want to suggest
All
that,
right.
that in the
I
interim
think the
then that
technician already know.
we should tell the
Yeah.
police
Okay.
that they shouldn't be
When you
putting out no
finish.
tickets until there is designated smoking areas. That is something that needs to like a moratorium in the interim until these people do what they need to do. Otherwise, it's appearing as if you're just out to punish and not necessarily give people the sort of freedoms that they should. In the meantime, we'll take a commercial break and then we'll be back right here for the next half of Everything Agriculture.
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically. At Shabazz Organics,
when comfort, class, and reliability matter, choose the ride that delivers more. Imperial Rides Transportation Services, where every journey is treated like royalty. From airport transfers, private events, shopping trips, island tours, and executive travel, Imperial Rides moves you in style, clean, comfortable, on time, every time. Book your premium taxi or tour service today. Call or WhatsApp 869-665-8459 or email elandflavas@gmail.com. Imperial Rides Transportation Services. Your journey, our priority.
Yes, and we are back with the second half of this special edition of Everything Agriculture, where we are in with the CEO of the Medical Cannabis Authority, Nadiv, and he is in with us, and we are definitely having a very engaging discussion as we get into the final part of the show. We are going to eventually open up the phone lines for those who may want to call in and, whether give their opinions, ask your questions, if you want to share something on the topic, you're open. The number would be 1-869-662-7196. That's 1-869-662-7196, and that's the number if you want to call in to be a part of the program this evening. We continue. I'll just continue with some of the comments in the interim. Okay. I guess somebody was answering in some part. If it's truly about medicinal, why not health ministry? Okay, you said you don't have to pay to vote. Okay. Well, so I guess maybe when you're giving the explanation about the person who told you about the constitutional right to vote, and so I guess they were thinking like me as well. They say you don't have to pay to vote. You get paid to vote. Well, okay. Well, and you shouldn't get paid to vote either. But we know that happened. But the comments, and that's why we always engage our folks on the wall or the folks who call in, because they always have some interesting points that could add to the debate and the discussion. Natural Mystic says too much double standards in the making of these laws. Sub-Zero says, but you just said each adult individual has a constitutional rights to 5 trees each, which is what I am saying. So if you have a constitutional right, if each adult have a constitutional right, why it depends on where they live for them to exercise that right? So if they live in a one house, you're telling me 5 plants per household, that can't make sense. It got to be 5 trees.
So just to add, the legislation doesn't use the word household. I'm just going based off of how it's being enforced by the police, the people who actually enforcing it. They're going off of households.
So this is why we need to have these discussions with those who put the legislation in place, so that those who are seeking to enforce it is not going about it the wrong way. Because based on from what I am understanding, if each individual have a constitutional right to go 5 trees, I mean, it should be more, but anyway, let's use what they're working with right now, the 5 trees. I shouldn't be limited to going my 5 trees because I live in a yard where another person have a right to go 5 trees as well. I mean, that is not making sense to me, really. But anyway, let's go to the comments again. So 5 man live in a house, 1 triple man. Nonsense. Okay, so this is just the responses from the people. Next thing again, Natural Mystic says churches have to register with the system, but not their members, while the Rastas have to register the organizations, and their members as well have to register that they are a part. That's an interesting difference as well.
No. So all the members don't have to register. It's one registration form, and it's the same as any church. It's the same form actually, but instead of church, they just change it to faith-based institution, so it could encompass Rasta organizations as well. You have to list the number of members, but each member don't have to come in and write down something. Now, if each member want to register their ends, their grounds, their yard as a place of assembly, then that member would have to come into the office and submit some documents such as land paper, ID, that type of stuff. But if it's just a regular member with no place of assembly, you don't have to register at all.
I have my issues with these things, because all of these things still fall under, like the judge was saying in the Sankofa case, as heavy-handed means of trying to still control something that you technically don't have control over, which the Constitution already give you your freedom of rights to deal with. But because when you go to the case would have had the likes of the Attorney General then, they would have had the CMO, which would have been making some of the same arguments that is being presented right now by this present AG. I think the CMO is still the same CMO, still making some of those arguments, talking about public safety and health and these issues and so on, when the judge would have highlighted that in relation to the Rastafarian freedom conscience, aspect of it, which delves into the private use. And this is what it comes under, basically, the private side of things. That one should have their freedoms on the private side. You on the public side who want to administer it to people and sell it and so on, a different set of regulations in place for you. So that is why you need to have all of these safety things and all of these things, because now you are selling it to somebody. But me, privately, have my rights to do what I need to do on that side. But the police and the authorities still feel that they have that need to have that level of control, because it means that, for example, on the Rasta side, where you could go as much as you want, the onus would now be on them to try to prove that I have intent to supply, because I have the right to go and have as much pounds as I want. It's the onus would be on you now to prove that I have some intent to sell. I'm trying to sell illegally. Now, we don't need to, based on what you're saying from the Rasta side, Because if, for example, a Rasta now needs to, they can apply for the license and they don't have to pay for it. Because under the Rastafari, a part of, I guess, maybe you want to call it repertory justice for Rasta, that they get whatever licenses they want free. But these are some of the things. So and I could bet they have persons representing Rastafarian sitting at the table who is contented. Mr. Mills is doing a good job as the CEO from what I am hearing and seeing. That's Johnny Bloom. Donny Herb says, Hill just got in. Escari says, does the government currently or intends to employ scientists in the area? What kind of scientists? Petra Jamat says, members fluctuate, so you'll be re-registering when new members come. These persons were group thinkers. What are the numbers to call in? Okay, so the number is 1-869-662. I think I'll type it in here. 1-869-662-7196. Right? 662-7196. That's the number to call in if you want to be a part of the program. And this is one of the difficulties, as the person pointed out there. Again, Sankofa did not take the government, he didn't even take the government. He actually took the police commissioner to court. However, in defense of the police commissioner, you'd have had also the attorney general and the CMO who sat as defendants on the case. Now, Sankofa took them to court as an individual. Sankofa never took them to court as a group. So Sankofa judgment was based on an individual Rastafari, claiming that an individual Rastafari have these fundamental rights. Why have the government, and I explained it a bit there, because they still want to have a level of control. But they have still not done what the judge asked them to do, because by now trying to group Rastafari and limit Rastafari rights to only be subjected to a group is still sort of diminishing what Judge Ventos addressed in the case in dealing with Sankofa. Because, like again I said, Sankofa went to the court as an individual. He didn't go as a group. He went as Sankofa Maccabee, as the case is Sankofa Maccabee versus the Commissioner of Police on St. Kitts. So these are some of the things that we still have a difficulty with, and it's because the government is still trying to enforce their control, to try to show that they still have some level of control where this is concerned, because for them, they never really wanted to give us the support. But the difficulty they have with that, you can't want to do that on one side and then want to run away with it on the other side because you see you can make some money off of it. Some of us in some cases don't really have any intention to make money off of it. Because you would hear Bankie say that all the time, me ain't really concerned about that side of it. I just want to be able to grow my herb and smoke as much as I want and be free as much as I want and do what I want with it. Why you have a problem with that? Why the system have a problem with that when the judge already tell them constitutionally we have that right to do that? So if you really care for the people, why oppress and continue to try to suppress something that they went to court to prove that they have the constitutional rights for, but yet want to run away with a side of the same thing that they would have been fought for to try to make millions off of it, which we ain't got a problem with because you want to set up the economy and diversify the economy and all that. Fair enough. But it shouldn't be at the expense of those who are already being ridiculed and persecuted and all that. I mean, after all of that, still want to fight out in these times? Anyway, that's my position. Go ahead.
So, the judgment as laid down by Judge Ventos, it seems like there are still certain, let's just say, for example, the UN Convention. I think that still holds more weight in our society than the judgment. For example, the UN Convention of 1971, it says that all cannabinoids and other psychotropics must be limited to medicinal and scientific use only. And obviously, St. Kitts is a signatory participant to that. So
Hold one second. Because this was clarified in that same case with Sankofa. Judge Ventos painstakingly took the time out to point out to them at the time, all the lawyers, whoever they were at the time, and the authority from the police, from the government side, that the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis is the highest law in St. Kitts and Nevis. No International Narcotics Act that you sign on to, no Drug Act that you sign on to, no other UN convention or whatever that you sign on to can supersede the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. So that is why I'm saying, so these things, even though they want to try to give them some credence and they signed on to them, if it infringes upon the constitutional right, they got a problem. And that is why Judge Ventos said that in relation to the case that he was dealing with, he said that it was a limited scope that he was dealing with, which was dealing with the religious side, so to speak, and the right for a private person to be able to make use of cannabis. So he wasn't dealing with what you are dealing with now in terms of the selling and all of that, and he wasn't dealing with that. What he pointed out that the Constitution made provisions for these things, and nothing what they come with. So if they needed to do anything, they needed to go back and amend the Drug Act, do whatever they need to do on that side. But in terms of the constitutional rights, it's a right, it's not a privilege. What they're seeking to do to us now, they try to give us a privilege, say, like, oh, we give you a license. A privilege for what is our right already. And so these are some of the things that I think maybe we might need another constitutional case to address some of these things, because some people are still choosing to do what they want to do and not respecting the constitutional rights. And this is the difficulty. Why the government so finding it so hard to accept what the Constitution says? And then when it's convenient for them, they want to use the Constitution. I hear the Prime Minister talking about Nevis has the constitutional right to do whatever they want to do with the land and all that. Well, Rastafari got the constitutional rights to grow as much cannabis as they want, and they don't need a license for that. And an individual who should have the freedom of conscience to grow cannabis shouldn't really need a license for that either. But these arguments are not necessarily being presented. It's being presented now. But
no, I completely agree with your points. I just think there's some reluctancy because of these treaties, and because cannabis is such a fascinating and confusing plant. Because it's one cannabis plant we're talking about, but we're talking about it from the realm of religious, medicinal, and then there's still recreational. So it's still just one plant, but to try to divide it and separate it into all these different parts is what is driving the confusion, really and truly. Because, even the banking system, yes, it is a constitutional right, but even the banks start to get a little concerned if they feel like proceeds that are not coming from a medicinal source could be ending up in their system. So I guess everybody just reluctant and just trying to the best as possible to make sure that cannabis, at least from an international perspective, once people are looking in, they're only seeing medicinal and research. Of course, we're not on the ground. We have a constitutional right for Rastas and religious rights. But to the international eyes, to media, we need to portray, for certain constructs, the banking construct, we need to portray medicinal and research only until we go a little bit further with our international laws.
Yahsonn, as you realize, the issue is that, as Mr. Mills said earlier, the police interpret things how they want. You see? And that's the point right there. All right. Have a call coming in here. Let me see if the caller want to be on.
Yeah, well, and this is why we need to have these sort of discussions, and this is why we have been appealing from this rostrum all the time for those who put the laws together and the regulations, and should be putting the regulations in place to come to the public so that we can have this clarity, and we shouldn't have to depend on waiting on police interpretation for police. So it's always supposed to enforce, not interpret. Anyway, Bankie, go ahead with the caller.
Caller, good day. Come to the Culture Show.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
This is actual mistake. I can't be because want to just clarify something with Mr. Mills. We were talking about the church and the registration of the land and all of this. Because when they were trying to make these laws and make up these registration and all of this, what meaning of a church did they really give to the panel that was sitting? What was the meaning of a church? Because from how I know growing up in a church, how I know it from when my parents tell me and when you read in the Bible, where one or two are gathered. You know what I mean? You can worship. I know you guys trying to restrict the rest of them to a certain area of land and certain tabernacle, but in the Christian religion, that is not so. And then you say they can plant on that land, but if the preacher decide or members of the church decide they're going to carry home some wine and keep a service somewhere else or some as the sacrament, there is nobody there who going to say they're going to lock them up because they're walking with the sacrament off the property of the church. So I want to know what is the meaning of a church or a religious organization that was used to these laws and rules to govern people worshiping in whatever means.
So as of right now,
You staying on line, Carla? Or you gonna listen?
Yeah, listen.
Go ahead.
Yes, so as of right now, there is no restrictions based off of size of this church, but it is not listed as a church. It's called a faith-based institution. So there's no restriction on size or location. The only restriction is that you must have either lawful ownership or the owner has to give you permission to use the property for that purpose. So some organizations, as I said, the members have already registered their own places of dwelling as a place of assembly for the organization. So some organizations go up to 5 and 6 places of assembly, which is registered, so they have the authority and permission to cultivate as much cannabis as they want on all those registered places. The only restriction was that they needed to have proof of ownership. That's all.
Yeah, but I understand all that what you said. But what I'm saying, this is where the double standard come in. As a Christian, you can take your sacrament from the place of worship that you're worshiping with. And you can go elsewhere. I can go down by the beach and worship if I want. Take communion down on the beach. I can go different places. So what is it? The cannabis as a sacrament, that's the limited place of worship. That they have regulation and restriction that they can, and they have to have a license if they're gonna move it from point A to B and different ways. I want to know, like, why is it the laws have so much standard because the Christians don't have all this restriction to worship? And then as I go back again and I tell you, what do you consider a church? Because for me growing up, a church in the building, a church in the property, a church is the people.
No, he's saying faith-based. The word church is not being used. The word have changed to faith-based. If I'm not the fallout is.
Whether faith-based, where we want to call it.
Yes.
It's still restricted to a certain area.
Of course.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes.
You can't restrict a man who to
Point taken, Carla. Yeah, man. I respect, appreciate it. Good point. The caller made just now.
Yes,
very good.
I agree
point.
with the caller for sure. I don't have the answers for him, but I agree with the points that he raises.
Of course,
Yeah,
definitely.
and you know, the caller spoke to that aspect, right? But there's the other aspect that because I find it really discriminatory, and I've pointed out already that I understand what they're trying to do because they still want to find ways of still controlling the amount of people who may, but it's a fear factor. It's a fear factor because they feel, okay, if they just open it up and say Rasta, well, not if they open it up and say, because that is what the rules say. Actually, Rasta. What the government started to do now is try to define Rasta and put Rastafari in a kind of confined setting where you have to register to be a part of a group or organization, and that way they can, to some extent, it's a means of control, right? If something is open up to Christians, if they say that they're gonna give out some money to Christians tomorrow, they're not going to say that the Christians have to be a member of a particular church, because there are many Christians who are not a part of any church. Likewise, there are the
So when you're a
Rastafari who
Christian,
are part of.
so them who Christian got a paper to say they baptized?
No, but Rasta is seemingly no forced to do that. So, but this is what I'm saying. Can Rasta not have to register? Rasta got to be a part of a organization in order to benefit from things that he should benefit from.
You know, we all know it's about, as the police never said, they want in your business, they want you to, is a control and back of people. That's all the system about twin track and the world.
But Bankie, I am just presenting the argument, because that's how, so to speak, like
people know that
court case, that you have to have some interesting positions to win over the juror, so to speak. So we're putting some of the arguments forward so that the jurors, the public, could listen and say, well, boy, I never really think about this, but no, he pointing it out, it really makes sense, it's true. Because like the person we're talking about, the sacrament. In relation to sacrament, because remember, one of the things that was highlighted as a part of the Sankofa versus the police commissioner case, two things were critical. One, Rastafari was recognized as a religion. Two, cannabis is recognized as a sacrament. So these are two critical areas. So now, as if the caller was talking about sacrament, now, the police ain't telling the pastor tomorrow want to go because he feel like maybe the price of wine going up right now because the ships can't go through Hamus and so on. And he decided to go and buy 500 cases of wine. And the police go by the pastor house and make 500 cases of wine. He ain't gonna say that the pastor got intent to supply. So how you know what I mean? And if he decided to bake 300 bread and got 300 bread in the freezer, then I go say that he got intent to supply. So how is it that you getting that on that side? So there's discriminatory reasons for discrimination when it comes to Rastafari and their freedoms that they really should have, because the same thing is not meted out to other religious organizations when it comes to their sacrament. So these are some of the little things that we have to look at. I know that from the police side, as I say, they're going to be thinking, well, if you got 500 pounds in the house, then that means it got to be you got intent to supply.
Well, then days are done with them days after can be continued.
Well, but them are used still. They still do it. And then they're going to say, if you're a Rasta, how you no, they will argue that if they free up and they don't try to control it, or they control it, are trying to control it, then everybody is going to just get up and go cannabis. But my problem with that
that's the business. No, but that's what the court is there for. But yes,
there's no evidence here to substantiate that. Let's use regular crops. Everybody could plant tomato, everybody could plant cabbage, everybody could plant pumpkin. Everybody planting pumpkin? Isn't there still a market for pumpkin and cabbage and tomato? So why is it that you feel that if cannabis is free up, while cannabis is just another plant, why you feel like everybody gonna just get up and go cannabis? It not gonna happen. So these kind of fears that the police and those who are trying to enforce are trying to put in place, there's absolutely no evidence to substantiate them arguments there.
What we're doing here don't make sense. You see what I mean? All this is not even needed. Because it's the same people who you want to harass, the government want to come to partake. So these conversations don't need to be happening. That's why I'm just listening to you all going back and forth. Because this is wasting time having this conversation. So either we're moving forward, or we just forget about this, the medical industry. Because who going to go the herb?
Everybody has to partake.
It's just like you have the youths and them say, all youths them not sitting down smoking. What are the authority doing when it comes to getting these young guys who have the interest in growing cannabis to be a part of this same program? These are initiatives we need to work towards, because I'm the one for change and progress, Me in the back and forth I waste my time having this conversation, because that's how my brain function. I'm not a cow always regurgitating, chewing the cud over and over. My brain don't function like that. After a limit, I'm ready to shut down and I'm ready to move on. Because it's we, the man who fight the way, they still want to go the same herb to buy it from. So what's the purpose of this show? is to bring change. That's the whole point we're here for. We're not here to just regurgitate, you know. We're here to make sure you can go back and those who are listening realize if you're going to fight these guys or not suppress it, give them the leeway to continue. Well, how you want to move forward? That is the reality.
So,
Because it's not like the
so
cannabis board and all these ministers and whoever else want to encourage tourism can go. They have none of going cannabis. So what? You're bringing outsiders who you don't want to rely on. I want your natives to benefit. That is, we're trying to reach that point. That is where, and if those police who set in their ways, they just need to be moved and put somewhere else, go get parking ticket. That is just the reality. This thing can't be continuing. Otherwise, what you guys are trying to do will not work.
so
Because
as
I don't
far
want to come here. Yes. Go ahead.
yes, I was saying as far as solution, yes. So the Organization of Rastafarian Unity, that's ORU, who is headed by Rastafarian. A lot of these points that you're raising, Yahsonn, they share the same sentiments, and they do plan to, you know, challenge it however they can. So I would say now that they're sitting back, or the general public isn't sitting back, we are trying to do something about it, the laws. As far as pulling the youths into this field, that is why we choose to have this traditional cultivator program. You're going to be aware of transitioning people away from the black market into this regulated and legal space. So that is how we plan to
But,
encourage the youth to get into this
in the
space.
conversation, been reach out to these youths when it come to partakers. I ain't think I've seen any of these youths in the training. So have any reach out to sit down with them and let them know this is what we're moving into and want to encourage them to partake. Because remember, the government is having all the investment. So those who just tuning in and don't understand what we're really talking about, I want to go back a little bit and give a weird shift and talk about some different stuff apart from the beginning of the show. But the main purpose is to understand the way forward of the training and different stuff and what the plans of the authority when it come to when they want to enforce and start this thing, because it's the same speaking about the government who fighting against getting locked up. It's the same with the why people let me to go to cannabis. But I personally have no interest in going cannabis or ever have interest in going cannabis to sell to anybody, period, outside. You understand? Who fight me all the years and to ship and to sell to industry and to Canada the government here. And I'm gonna interest. I got to help for my own supplement and to get it stack up as long as I want it to process however mine be. That's my thing. That's what me fight for. Who want them thing to each his own. Me have no interest in that. I fighting for them who want to be partake in this thing too, because it's not about me. You see what I mean? If a man say we can make some money, that's fine. It go to the program, but also the youth then can be left out. That is my thing. Because something like this, because what happened, remember, the government already started building a hub over Port Zante for bringing in tourists coming in from England. We're supposed to bring in 75,000 people within the first 2 weeks. And these people will be on island for 2 weeks for the an island. So what are these people going to be doing? You see what I mean? So it means, so let's say cannabis. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so rightfully so. In the beginning of the year, when we first had the cultivators meetings, we did have a lot more interest and participation from the youth, I would say. So it's not that we're not aware of who the cultivators are, especially the youths who are interested. We are aware that this last traditional cultivator workshop for 3 days, it wasn't as heavily attended by the youth, but it was just a pilot program. We were just kind of feeling it out. Dr. Emmanuel was only here for a very short time, so we kind of had to squeeze it in. It was during work days, Thursday and Friday, and then Saturday. So the timing, it wasn't ideal. We kind of was just working with what we had at the time, and as a pilot project. For the next training, we plan to have at least 2 more before December, before the initial rollout of the program. And we do plan to advertise more to the youth. Ones that we know were interested, we just basically have to go through the list from the cultivators meeting that we had earlier up in the year, and we could identify the youths that are more interested in cultivating cannabis. But yeah, it is not that we're trying to leave out the youth or we're forgetting about them at all. And thanks for the point, Bankie, and we do everything that we need to do to make sure that they're included for the next training.
Yeah, I definitely feel like these youths who definitely, I mean, they've been put on different programs. Those programs have been shut down, and this is where they can be using their energy, and at the same time, they're learning a skill set that could be used into agriculture itself, vegetables, anything it is. The principle is the same. So once they take up this opportunity in training, learning this system, understand nutrition, the pH, the EC, all these different concepts of making sure the plant is done the right way, and especially in an organic way, health, safety. Because you see, one of the things that is not touched is the of cannabis that is already on the island. Some of them called creepy, coming from out of Colombia, and a lot of the cannabis coming out of Canada with the junk, some old weed, grade F, THC, and they using all these are bad grade and bad herb. You smoke old herb, old weed that is going in the garbage, but then the man ship it down here to you guys, and the guys don't talking about loud and this and that. If we don't change a system where our youth are smoking all this chemical and pesticides who have come in the country and think it look good and all this thing and think about safety, we're going to end up in a serious epidemic that's going on over in Africa. Because they're using marijuana as a way of weaponizing and fighting the youth and them who like to use cannabis, and not thinking about safety. Is the next tool. If they're using crack, is cannabis is the next one. Spray with a lot of synthetic, you understand, terp, THC, and all these different stuff. And you get this high. And with that, only that is the kind of herb you want to smoke. So these things can be overlooked. And that is why it's important that this kind of conversation be held and understand the seriousness of this industry, because it is a industry. Safety is everything. And what is going on, it's going to happen around here very, very soon, because they heard them all coming around here. And people think, and they can't differentiate the difference between fake weed and real weed. That's just what it is. So what's the aspect of it, and how the government is looking at these things?
So the authority, and by extension the government standpoint on the importation of weed, we are pretty much against it unless it's a necessity. And we don't really see it being a necessity to import any type of cannabis, because we have adequate conditions, climate, and expertise to cultivate whatever we need for our domestic market. What we see is there's a trend, as you rightfully said, of dumping inferior cannabis that couldn't pass the standards in these markets. I just probably wasn't able to sell. They try to dump it on our developing countries. The authority, and by extension the government, is completely against such practices. The kind of industry and the kind of product that we want to create for St. Kitts and Nevis is one which is grown from organic inputs and maintained by using organic, the least harmful pesticides as possible. So we want to stand out from the developed industries, America, Canada, Europe, by using, again, organic inputs and by using biological, safe alternatives as it comes to pesticides. This is the only way we're going to separate ourselves. It is very hard for you to do organic on a large scale, which is what I would call commercial goods, where you would see these larger markets. So if we could put, simply by saying, for you to participate in this industry, it has to be fully organic. It's very hard for a company that has bad practices, ill intentions, do not care about the consumer, for them to come in and operate in a fully organic space. So by setting these policy requirements, making it more organic and I think more health conscious, we would therefore ensure that there's only the highest quality product in our domestic market and that the youths will be protected throughout.
So, question: is there plans for the government per se to have their own dispensaries and so on?
As of right now, the government doesn't plan to get into the retail side of things, and government has not really been too good with retail. But for now, we're just looking to manufacture product and export it to partners.
Okay, so
As far as retail, the government would more so looking to partner with a retail person, a private individual, maybe who has the space. Maybe we could supply them with product from the TCP. If they wanted land building, we could, try to facilitate something like that. But as far as running the dispensary, I don't see the government engaging in such.
So this is interesting. So the government is putting this program in place where they're going to train, help to train these cultivators who are going to be growing, I guess, specific strains as well, because I suppose that the strains would have to meet certain standards. Because I know, like, for the US and so, a lot of them would be like very low in THC, especially if it's for medical cannabis. You're gonna have some strains that are very low.
CBD strains, we have to include some of those.
So this means that a lot of this is going to have to be under controlled environment so that it minimizes the spread of pollens to neighboring farms and stuff like that. That is
we'll
one.
be using feminized slips or clones. So the spread of pollen, the chance of that will be very slim.
So I heard you mention nurseries. So you guys are going to be putting together your own cannabis nurseries as well? That is what you're alluding to?
So the Department of Agriculture and St. Kitts will have a nursery which will be supplying quality starting material for the TCP, and then the department in Nevis would have the same setup. A nursery will be supplying quality starting material for the TCP.
Okay. So based on what I'm seeing here and hearing here, a lot of this is going to be set up, and the government is going to ensure that whatever regulations are going to be in place and so on to ensure that this TCP program, along with whatever they're trying to roll out on their side for revenue generation to be realized, then what is left is then going to be a sort of pressure that is going to be placed on those who are called off-market growers or the black market growers. So then there's still going to be, quote-unquote, pressure on those who may not have any license and are growing, we say regular cultivators. That is going to be a problem.
You mean
People
who have the regular cultivators license are people just doing black market dealings?
Well, from most of the people who do not fit under the TCP and who may not necessarily have a regular the regular.
It's a choice. That's all. Remember, it's a program. It's not don't fit on. It's a choice. Either you sign up. That's all it is.
Yes.
You ain't gonna say if you want to be part of it. It's a choice. You can't force somebody to be part of the program. So it's not nobody.
No, Bankie. Hold on, Bankie. Remember still when it comes to you personally and me personally, because we are Rastafarian, so we still kind of out. Exactly. So we're in that, so to speak, because even we wouldn't be considered a black market to some extent because our rights doesn't give us the privilege to sell.
Yeah, but there are those who do the system. Period. So, there are those who are gonna have not do this system and continue to do them thing. That's just normal. Yeah. That's all it is.
So as far as commerce, the medicinal cannabis framework and the different licenses that we have, that's the only way you could sell cannabis. That's the only selling. So any selling outside of that, you in the black market and you're doing something illegal. I can't really give you any advice, but to tell you to try to move into the legal side of things.
Me not understand what you're say. Me not say what you say, Virgin. Nothing
Just,
under this stuff gonna change, Virgin. That's it. You understand? The world is built of a control system, and that's it. But Mr. Mills, I appreciate you coming on and especially giving the information and the way forward where we are moving into. But this conversation will just never have an ending because it's too much controversy around the situation here. Because those who don't want to partake in this industry is the same people they're fighting against. So it just making the whole system just not looking in a good way. And trust got to be attained, a surety where this cannabis thing have been suppressed, where we can the change of the conversation, the tone of the conversation wouldn't still wondering this happening, that happening. That's not making no sense. And as you're having progress where people are registering for regular cultivators license and stuff like that, and also for the traditional cultivator program that is up. So you have some kind of trust, and in order to continue trust to get bigger, it means this situation here where the police have their own way of thinking, of arrogance, I must put that in there. Can I make sense? Because when I get locked up, you were these officers, Veer and Shane and all them others who was right there, and the others them. And then I say, what? Oh, you say, you're telling them I have the right to go and them want the cannabis. They don't want to hear it. You did not they act to them. The arrogance in these police officers. The fact. You see what I mean? You were there. Do not lock me up. Tell them not lock me up, but they're not okay. You see what I mean? You say you don't sit with the higher command, Carty. They know it's willful act these are be. You tell them, not let them know. They know. That's the beautiful thing about it, because you see the world here, you sit and talk with them. You see? So they can't, this conversation didn't happen. These are the facts. These guys just set in their ways and have on a uniform and just being arrogant and so in fear in the general public. They get a higher for it. But I don't say uniform. So they need to understand my brain function different. I see corrupt police who imposing on my rights once you come and violate me. So me now back. That's just how it is wherever me live, so me be all the time. I understand my rights. And until people stand up on their rights and get this nonsense about shaming their family by getting locked up, well, you only a man put your hand up in your throat and put your foot on because you don't want to speak out. So you only a man rape you and keep quiet. Well, no man rape me and keep quiet, because it's war. That's just how he belong to. And that's just how it is regardless of who it is. And the uniform they have on. You have your human rights. And if your rights been trampled on, you say it. That's just how it is. So these police can't have to say, we are me, they interpret how they want, and they're thinking, oh, me, you have, my wife live here. My wife have a right to go, she got her own trees. Me trees haven't done my wife trees. So that's how it work. You understand? They have, and these are things that will change because this industry will not function. Otherwise, I will advocate that nobody take part in this thing here. And when I speak, people follow too. So it's either we're going to suppress this and deal with our citizens in a right way, or we start to march again and fight against cannabis and the ill treatment of police officers. Because until things are changing, so I appreciate that. Because I don't have time to waste to march against them. I like to resolve issues. The authority is functioning, ecclesiastic is functioning because of the support of the community within what me and Jama got through, and that's the way it's all about. When you want change, you come together and not fight against each other. We should not be having that with conversation on a negative road where people are being harassed and people are making money off of the industry who deserve to make money off of the industry. That is my way and do it forward. And hopefully this thing can work out, because now you have the director Elliot and tap the Medicinal Cannabis Authority board. So hopefully one of these days we can have a conversation with him. What are Nevis plans? And the same minister now, you meet Eric Evelyn. See, what do you say? He's saying what? In what? Say you feel about the cannabis?
Enthusiastic. He seemed enthusiastic.
All right. Yeah, so the laugh. All right. Okay, good. So you see progress is progress. We'll let our more to here. Not man get locked up, man get harassed. Nah, enough of that being done with. and stuff like that. You see what I mean? Good. A long time past them are saying they will not go jail for ganja no more. Since in the 70s, 80s, they were saying them things there. This is 2026. Come on. Move forward and show the world we are educated people and we can do this thing the right way. So am I still in the feelings in how they say cannabis? But it's all about education. And the same, we already feel about cannabis, you just speak the same about alcohol. They should support alcohol. You see, because I will come here and do a show about alcohol consumption and poisoning on a weekly basis and every weekend that going on that is not being spoken about, but let's talk about ganja. And alcohol will make the most money in our society. Here, more wine shop, more alcohol, rum, beers, fed. But we're overlooking these things. So again, I'll give you a final word for your wrap up and then we wrap up the show. And then at least we can always get you back with some progress about cannabis and the way forward.
Yes. So I would just like to add, as you rightfully said, we need to do better on our messaging. And as the government, although we might not all be in the same ministry, same department, same entity, it is our responsibility as the government to work together, especially when we're trying to roll out something as controversial as medicinal cannabis. You know, it makes no sense for the MCA to be promoting where we have other departments and ministries, let's just say, doing things that are counterproductive to the goal. So from my office, I will go out and try to bridge these gaps, try to gain some clarity, and try to get everybody on the same page as far as moving forward. Because, as I said, as the government, as the people in these positions, it is our responsibility to make sure that everyone is clear and can abide by the laws and rules if they so choose to. So yeah, the TCP would continue to have a couple of these sessions, these training sessions. Expect to have one in Nevis shortly. You would start seeing ads shortly, which is a training program for persons that are interested in partnering with the government in an arrangement which is less risk, where you would be able to cultivate, train, learn how to cultivate and cultivate cannabis to a medicinal cannabis standard. And then at the end, you would be able to transfer that to the government for, you know, a cash exchange, of course, a monetary exchange, of course, based off of the value of crop that you have produced. More details as far as the program will be coming out shortly. And as I said, look forward, Nevis, your training is coming up pretty soon. Thank you.
Yahsonn?
Yeah, I give thanks, and I am, happy to hear from Nadiv and hear an update on the training and hearing and learning a little bit more about the program and what they're seeking to do. I want to take this time as well to encourage the health ministry, the Ministry of Health, to play their role in relation to cannabis and ensure that, they do put in place designated smoking areas. Otherwise, you're just punishing or seeking to punish by having the law enforcement officers giving out tickets to people when you don't have any designated smoking areas set aside for them. So that needs to be addressed. The other area in relation to allowing businesses to have 420-friendly smoking zones, those regulations need to be sorted out as well. We have seen some great improvement in relation to the Ministry of Ecclesiastic Affairs, but we do need to hear from them as well. It's not looking good that the government is seeking to run with the medical cannabis side, which is just the side where they can make money off of, and then seemingly lagging behind with the other areas. So like, Nadiv would have just said, the other ministries, I think, need to be able to play the part and play the role. looking forward to, some traction here in Nevis. So I'm glad to hear that Randy Elliott is now on the cannabis board. And I'm glad to hear that Honorable Eric Evelyn is very enthusiastic about cannabis. That is very good to hear. So we're looking forward to hearing more and more updates from you, Nadiv, as time rolls on. Give thanks for the update, and I'm sure that the people who would have listened this evening would be grateful for the information and would be looking forward to hearing from the other colleagues. I don't know if maybe you could eventually get somebody from the health ministry to come on board and come and have a conversation with us in relation to that as well. But we would really love to have more of those people who can make the changes and put the rules in place. I've been trying to get Mr. Carty to come on the program. I'm waiting for his response. So we can't be sitting back and just punish people. Huh?
You owe me a malt. You owe me a malt. God, time I running now. Give me the malt and done the virgin. Give me the malt,
we can't afford to continue like this. And I think part of it is the lack of communication, the lack of information. And those who can provide the information are sitting back. And at the end of the day, the locals are being punished. The people who should be able to benefit from their constitutional rights are still being punished because those who can do better, those who can provide the information are seeking not to do it. So I give thanks to you for coming forward and doing this, and we look forward to having further engagements in more times to come. Enough respect, Real Entertainment Network team. You want to encourage folks who are logged in before you leave. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube platform, click on the notification bell, and make sure that you're informed every time we have a program here on Real Entertainment Network. Bankie, you're closing out.
Yes, I just want to thank Mr. Mills again, part of the Everything Agriculture Show, Real Entertainment, for disseminating the information of the Medicinal Cannabis Authority out of St. Kitts Nevis, and they were forward upon the training of the traditional cultivators program, which they're encouraging good partake with the partner with the government will put in all the inputs and come back and still purchase the cannabis from you, and they do the processing and stuff like that. So all you do is to grow in a controlled environment that is in a regulated area. It's all about medicinal, so it's not you're going to help for yourself. And once you can achieve these growing techniques and everything is done safe from testing for microbes and for pesticide residue and carbon in that, then you get paid for your stuff. Again, it's positive. We're moving forward. Let's see how this energy can keep up. You've been doing a great work since you've been there, so I must commend you. Because of you, the offices of ecclesiastic is functioning when it comes to people getting hard for growing 5 trees or the license, certificate when it comes to the place of registration to grow cannabis for their supplement and stuff like that. So you got to be commended for that. In our time, for all these years, nothing been happening, and now progress is in motion and people are now registering. And so, the trust is encouraging, so people are registering to feel somehow safe and confident that they're moving in the right way. So again, enough respect on that. Before we go, let me go up to Kenda Camp, which is Renee Anthony and her daughter and her son, and partnering with a counselor, Miss Tanisha Stanley, and her daughter Ajane, and her I can't even find Tizavi. My goodness, with these names. All right, but yeah, man, young man, big up yourself, and really big up yourself and your daughter also and your full team. I think you guys all money worth, and you only to tip this lady something extra for having your children for 2 weeks full day. Definitely, that's been a task, and she must be commended for her great works. And definitely, it's something I have to promote her more. Again, also to Mansell's last stop is sharks and bakes for the breakfast and breadfruit, along with lunch. You get your caramel and fish and okra, along with your meat choice, oxtail, chicken. You get your pies, your salad, whatever you want. So things go fast, and also you can still drop by coconut, your bananas, your plantain, your cucumbers, and stuff that is available there. Fresh in stock, and your fresh local drinks, whether it's tamarind, passion fruit, lemonade, ginger beer, and Marby. Only place to get Marby that is not bitter, smooth and nice, and the best area to relax and chill, watch the sunset, and just watch vehicle passing by is where you're in good company, listen music, and chat topics where no arguments is allowed, just all positive, where views are respected. So, technician, once again, thanks to all those who called in and being a part of the show. All the messages comes in. And next week, Tuesday, our guest, September 1st, the one and only advisor to the Prime Minister, Mr. Austin Edinburgh. Definitely looking forward for that reasoning. And then the following Tuesday and the 8th will be Mario Philip. So next week, Friday, our guest will be the former PS of Agriculture, Mr. Miguel Fleming. We're going to be speaking about agriculture, all this heat, and where the way forward when it comes to the agriculture industry and so forth. So September is a full pack when it comes to educating and disseminating information here on Real Entertainment Network. Mr. Mills, enough respect again. Thanks for coming, Yahsonn. Enough respect, technician. We are out.
Give thanks.
It's everything agriculture with Bankie and Yahsonn. Talking food security, cannabis, farming, livestock, fisheries, and everything agriculture. Every week on Real Entertainment Network. Food security, that's the priority. Plant the food locally, feed the whole community. Everything agriculture, building for the future. Bankie and Yahsonn bringing solutions for the islands and the nation. Too much food coming overseas. One disruption bring the country to knees. One storm, one war, one delay. Supermarket shelves empty same day. So we have to plant more yam and dasheen. Fresh vegetables keep the people clean. Raise more goat, more chicken too. Local farming must come true. Every backyard can grow something. Pepper, thyme and pumpkin. Teach the youth we love the soil. Agriculture